Thank you. Doug Chappell is doing his 9th project, Power to Persuade. It is on looking at the scoring system the NHL uses to place teams within their division. So he'll be looking at the NHL Shootout. Is it good? Should it stay? Or should we go back to the tie system of scoring? And I'll be interested to see where he leaves us hanging, because I know where I stand coming in. So without further ado, Doug Chappell.
Well, good morning, fellow Toastmasters, guests, everybody. It's a beautiful, sunny day here in June. I heard this morning the high is 86 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
So, naturally, what are we all thinking about? Ice hockey. It is time, though, that the Stanley Cup is going on right now between Chicago and Tampa Bay. Man, from Chicago, I hope the Blackhawks can turn it around in the next couple games. Sports fans will frequently say, I think that there are a few things in sports more exciting than playoff hockey. And the most exciting part of playoff hockey is when the game goes into overtime, because it's sudden death, first goal wins, and they just play until someone scores. So you can have lots and lots. You can have up to a full hour of extremely tense, very exciting hockey waiting for someone to score. In the regular season, though, having games go on indefinitely like that is not desirable. And they also, because of the risk of injury and things of that sort. And the NHL also decided about 10 years ago that they didn't want any games to end in ties. So the solution to that is to have games go eventually into a penalty shootout, where the teams alternate taking penalty shots until someone wins. And this is terrible. So I won't leave you in the suspense as to what I think. These are just terrible. The NHL should end shootouts. They should go back to just allowing games to end in a tie if no one scores. And they should move to using a soccer-style scoring system where you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, and 0 points for a loss. Right now you only get 2 points for a win and 1 point for a loss in overtime. So that's what I think they should do. Now, you may be wondering, why is this so terrible? Why is this such a big deal? Well, the problem is that when games go into a shootout, you wind up with a result that is not representative of the actual flow of a hockey game. The shootout where you just have one player going one-on-one with the goalie, it's a skills competition. And I would argue that it's the same as if we decided a basketball game by just having a slam dunk contest. Or if we decided a baseball game by just switching to a home run derby at the end of the game. If they said, yeah, we don't want to play regular baseball anymore, let's just have a home run derby. And because of that, you wind up with games where you have a winner I would say, that is not necessarily deserving of the win based on how the play of the game went. And I don't think that is what we should be going for. The most deserving team should, under most cases, be the team that wins. Frequently, though, I think people say, well, you have to have someone win the game. You need to find a way to have a winner because Americans like winners, as George Patton said. And if we don't have a winner, if we just have a tie, then we're un-American sister kissers, because people say ties like kissing your sister and all that. And I say those people are wrong. I say those people are wrong. Sometimes, honestly, especially in a fairly low-scoring game like hockey, sometimes you legitimately had two teams that just played and they were on the same level as each other. And there's nothing wrong with that. The honest outcome of the game was just that it was tied. There's no need to arbitrarily designate one team or the other as the winner. And I would point to other examples of ties that we seem to be okay with. In the National Spelling Bee, just a few weeks ago where they spell words much more difficult than dichotomous. That ended in a tie, and I was surprised to learn that it was not the first time it had ended in a tie. That seemed unusual to me, but I guess that's somewhat common, that they just end in a tie. Both of these kids are equally tremendous spellers. Ties are, of course, quite common in soccer, which I think most of us know is the most popular sport in the world, and a sport that is rapidly improving in popularity in the United States. And in that most American of sports, the National Football League, ties exist there, and they don't happen all the time, but there were one or two last season. They happen somewhat commonly there. So ties are okay. There's nothing fundamentally wrong or fundamentally un-American about them. But aside from that sort of emotional criticism of having a game end in a tie, another more practical criticism that some people would make against ties is that it reduces the incentive to win, that teams will take fewer risks, that they'll just play for that tie, happy with the half win that a tie is essentially worth. And that is kind of the case. That is kind of the case under the system that the NHL currently uses. As I said earlier, currently in the standings points that rank teams, as Chris mentioned, you get 2 points if you win, 1 point for an overtime loss, but when there were still ties, you got 1 point for a tie, and 0 points for a loss. So if you tied, you would get credit for half a win. In soccer, though, I think in every soccer league, any major soccer league around the world, you get 3 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, none for a loss. And having that win be worth 3 points instead of 2 creates that extra incentive to win and a disincentive to just play for a tie, because if you tie, you're getting less than half of the credit. So that extra third point would, I think, give teams the incentive to still play for a win and not just sit back for a tie. So, obviously none of us have the power to change what the NHL does, but my proposal, my proposition to you today is to at least think about this, especially if you care about hockey, but even if you don't, think about it a little bit and support the adoption of this proposal. The regular season will still never be as exciting as the playoffs is. That's just the nature of things. But we can eliminate the shootout sideshow that makes such a silly spectacle of some regular season hockey games, and is extremely biased against the Detroit Red Wings, not that I care about that. And we'll stop giving arbitrary wins to teams that don't really deserve to win based on how the play of the game went. Sometimes a tie is fair enough. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.